Welcome back to another update. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at two different topics in the weather community that is being talked about a lot. First is going to be about the severe weather risk in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. This is going to be the main severe weather risk I am going to cover, not the ones back in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and back in the Dakotas. I'm going to be taking the one in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, upstate New York, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, um, Tennessee. No, never mind. Ohio, Ohio, my bad. But then the second topic, if you guys want to skip to it, is going to be about the tropical update, as we have some tropical updates. And in fact, invest 92L, invest 93L, and invest 92L and 93L. That we all were seeing good signs across Georgia. That actually never formed. The National Hurricane Center said there was just not enough thunderstorms around Invest 93L and Invest 92L. There was some good thunderstorms, but it was having some issues within the inner core. But now let's get into the severe weather here. So this is the slight risk here across the Northeast. Pretty impactful here. We have Pennsylvania and we have quite a bit of people under it. Tornado risk is less than a 2. Yesterday they did had a 2% in the northern. I wonder why they took it out, because I still see the kind of the same signal for it. So I was a little confused, and I mean, maybe they're right. All right. But the wind and hail is at a 5 and a 15. But the wind is going to be the main thing in these storms, and very heavy rain with some lightning and thunder within these systems. The only tornado risk today is nothing, actually, less than 2% in all areas. So maybe 1% of those slight risks, if you guys want to do it that way. But if we take a look at the NAM model here and take a nice look, as we get into later today with the NAM, this is pretty much right now. So as we go into the afternoon, there is some more storms that develops in Ohio. Even southern Pennsylvania, you get some maybe supercells. And that's why I thought they'll keep the tornado risk, because clearly there is supercells in Pennsylvania, in West Virginia and Virginia. There are some cells that develops with the NAM, and these get rather strong, and then a line kind of develops where we see some thunderstorms out ahead of it, but then some of the thunderstorms come into a line, but then we got the actual line back in northern Pennsylvania. So if I get my Epic pen here quickly, let me just go get my Epic pen. This is right on the fly here. And just draw what's happening here, if the Epic pen actually works. Okay, so it did. Okay. Just make sure I was still recording here. So if we take a look at what's happening, I hate these ads, you guys. Sorry about that. This was all on the fly right there with the Epic pen. But if we take a look, what's happening here is these storms. Let me just move my mic. So these storms are moving in like this direction here, and these supercells. But then we got the cold front moving in this way. So that's where the straight line winds are. So what we're seeing is some rotation. We're seeing some thunderstorms moving this way. winds coming out of the south, and we got winds coming in the north. So that's why I kind of thought they'll have a tornado risk and actually bump it up to a 5% here with this one. But definitely these storms are going to be bringing some large hail and damaging winds and very heavy rain with a lot of lightning and thunder here. But we continue, these storms continue to move through, and then the line, and then some back end rain. But then that's it to on Thursday, looking absolutely gorgeous, cooler, sunny, maybe not even a cloud in the sky. We're gonna have to see how that plays out. But if we take a look at the satellite, how these thunderstorms can get so high is this. I mean, look at some of these storms here. They definitely get into. Wait, that's kind of. I don't like this one. Never mind. I'm not gonna do this one. I just don't like how it is. Um, let's take a look at the total accumulations for the rainfall with the NAM. And especially these storms can produce, I mean, the heaviers, maybe 1 to 2 inches, maybe even the bigger batches, 3, 4 inches. We're gonna have to be careful with that for some ponding on the roads and even some river flooding if you have a stream in your yard. The wind gust out of these storms definitely shows maybe on that southern. I mean, we definitely see some wind gusts into the 60s, 70s. So we're gonna have to be careful with that. The dew points too. It's gonna be extremely muggy today. Dew points in the low 70s, upper 60s here, and the humidity is going to be really nasty here too. So everything is just planning out to be conducive for thunderstorm development. Supercell composite, I mean, like I said, the chances are extremely I would say high. I mean, for the Northeast. We got oranges, we got some yellows, greens all along the slight risk. And that's why I kind of thought they'll keep the tornado risk, because it's honestly has gotten higher since yesterday. So this is supercell composite, you guys. This is where how tornadoes form. And we if we look at the tornado significant premiere, you can tell some of these storms get into the yellows and even oranges. That's a 3 or 4 right there. So, very interesting why they took out the tornado risk. If it was me, I would keep the tornado risk, you guys, because I will honestly be watch out for a tornado or two. I mean, even the Cape has gotten a bit higher than previous, I thought. The most unstable Cape and sheer now into the yellows and even some oranges popping up. So that tells me there's even more thunderstorm activity for these supercells to work with. What about the Cape? I mean, that's actually sheer too. That's some sheer in there. So, pretty interesting. The Hercules, pretty nice. I mean, kind of surprised. But if we take a look at the Her now with some of these here, let's take a look at the Supercell Composite. Maybe they're going by the Her. I mean, even wow, actually, wow. The Her, if we take a look here, I mean, the Her has even more widespread yellows in this area right here. So I say for the best chance for tornadoes is going to be where I just drew. I think where the best spin and the best motion with both of these models that we're taking a look at for supercells here before the line comes. We're going to have to see how today continues and see if we get early thunderstorms or what's the environment looking like. Do we see supercells? Do we see lines forming within? Um, Significant tornado perimeter is extremely low, so maybe that's why they didn't. It is like literally just a percent for a tornado, for a significant tornado. Updrafts, they are there actually for some updrafts, especially in the northern Pennsylvania. So we have to be careful. So the ingredients is still there for some thunderstorm development. Cape and shear extremely low, and I wonder why it's like that. Just extremely low on the hurt here. Um, Total accumulations rain on the model. Nothing really, only maybe 1 to 2 inches at most here. Once again, the dew points and temperatures extremely favorable, and the HER actually has a lot less of humidity in today for some reason. So I wonder. I mean, the HER is kind of downplaying everything, but the supercell composite doesn't make sense because you need the ingredients to make supercells. So I'm a little trippy with the new 12Z run of the model, but the herd does see supercells once again out ahead of the line that does develop here. That could bring some tornado warnings. I would still think big time severe thunderstorm warnings once again in the same areas where the NAM was, and then that line doesn't really develop a line with that with the supercells until a little bit later. Then you can see we get that line, but then you could tell there's a back line right here. So that could be a gust front here that we're gonna have to be careful of, some hail and stuff. Supercell's out ahead of it for southern New England. We're gonna have to be taking care of some lining features here. Supercell features all in West Virginia. So we're gonna have to be careful on that. We continue to take a look at the model, and boom. So pretty interesting. So now I want to take a look at the tropics. All right, you guys, the tropics. So this is the latest tropical update. Let me make sure this is on. All right, good. So we actually, since my last time we talked, the tropics have stayed active in June. Yes, we only had one storm and no barrel, no Cristobal or Cindy. I'm pretty sure what's the name of it. Yeah, Cindy. But if we look here, we have actually our first area of interest in the main development region, and it's at a 30%. You guys, this was at a 20%, but it's looking more and more likely that we are gonna have some type of wave, depression, tropical storm in the main development region before reaching the Caribbean. Then we have another area here trying to develop. Environment is kind of unfavorable right now for it. My chances for that is very low right now. I do not see a tropical depression or storm out of that. But things can surprise you in late June. Main thing we're gonna be talking about is this. This has a very high chance of development of the last few days here. So we take a look at some models here. Take the GFS as a grain of salt. I'm telling you right now, take it as a grain of salt. Develops a low pretty quickly here in the main development region. Stays pretty weak, maybe gets the higher chances in the next 72 hours, tries and becomes 1,004, starts getting its act together, and pretty quickly too. In 3 days, this could be a tropical storm. We're gonna have to see how that continues, but then it makes into the sub 1,000s all the way here, you guys. This is a pretty long distance from the islands here, and we have a 999. That gets you concerned if you guys are in the Western Antilles. You guys know what I'm talking about. We have seen it storm after storm in 2017 and in 2020, where then we actually see this just quickly intensify into a nine sub 1,000 millibars into the 990s, then becomes a hurricane before even reaching the islands. Then we have another wave behind it on the GFS that's referring. Then it bottoms out with its development for maybe 6 hours, then re-strengthen 987. So now we're talking about the sub 990s, you guys. That's pretty crazy. Another tropical disturbance here, maybe tropical storm. We're gonna have to see, but we see a 976 at its peak. That's a category 2 potential hurricane, or strong category 1. And it goes over south of the Barbados, you guys. Very low latitude storm, just above 10. And then we see another tropical storm. And this one develops into a tropical storm and hits the same areas exactly. That just mind blows me. And then becomes nothing too strong, but stays at its tropical storm. And then the farther out, there's some more waves that we see. But what happens with this one kind of actually weakens as it gets in the Caribbean. Starts weakening, still a hurricane here, but then it becomes a tropical storm here. And my question is why it stays a tropical storm and a weak tropical storm before slamming into Mexico. This one dies out too, does pretty much the same thing as it enters the Caribbean, but that's too far out. I'm not looking at the long term on the GFS. But why does it show development with the GFS so aggressively? That's what I want to figure out. And first thing we have to look is in the dry air. Do we see major dry air? And yes, we see some Saharan dust and dry air, but it already has a moisture bubble, and I kind of see that, why they actually see that. But it stays moisture free. And then once we start entering the Caribbean with some light wind shear, and then with that dry air, it starts impacting. This one has a little better environment with the moisture, but the conditions are pretty favorable. I mean, look at the wind shear. There's like no wind shear in this. Good cyclonic flow, wind shear to the north. Same thing with this system too. And then once we enter here, this is why it starts weakening. Some more rapid wind shear. And I think the same thing with that storm too. So the wind shear in the Caribbean, not too favorable, but in the short term, conditions are favorable. So gets me to the question is this really going to develop, or is this just a big buff on a big bluff on the GFS? And the Canadian was seeing a hurricane before, kind of slow down on that, and now just showing a open wave into the Caribbean. But whatever does happen with the wave, looks like as of right now into the Caribbean. Then that secondary system maybe into a tropical depression in the same areas, and tries and develops. And then we see another wave in the Atlantic. So looks like July is going to be a pretty busy start here. Um, we take a look at the icon as it's starting to come out. And I mean, it's getting a storm to develop. It's trying to get a tropical development here on the icon. The Euro, if we take a look, nothing really. Just to me, it's just, oh whoa! I actually did not see that. So actually, on the 6Z, it actually is showing such a stronger storm here. This is actually a tropical depression, or maybe even a low end tropical storm. Because I was actually going to show you a 0Z, but look at 0Z compared to the new run. Much stronger, you guys. Much stronger. This is 90 hours out. So chances for that is actually going up even further as I speak. NavGem, not really a model we use. Just shows nothing. Um, I don't like the NavGem. I'm not a big fan of it. No hurricane models out on it because it's not even an invest, but not even for 94L here. But let's take a look at the Caribbean here for Invest 94L. Yes, we do have Invest 94L. That's the Caribbean storm. And I mean, even the short term models, I mean, it does develop maybe into a tropical storm before slamming into Mexico, then just dies out. We're gonna have to see if that becomes Barrel or the one in the MDR. If this one becomes Barrel, then that one will be Cindy, and then I think Danny, Donnie, whatever in the future. But let's take a look at the ensembles. This is actually the European ensembles. I can understand why the 6Z bumped it up in the main global models. Pretty good eye here. I mean, the chances of us not moving out to sea is getting higher. Where I mean, this is the cone as of right now. I mean, this is that cone as of right now, with majority of the models on the southern side here of this cone. So as of right now, it looks like the some land is impacted. And I'm not trying to concern you guys, but if we take close looks into some of these ensemble members, they are into pretty strong tropical storm here, 50 to maybe 70-mile-an-hour tropical storm. And not to worry, some of these are into actually hurricane and even into potentially major hurricane. I do not really believe on these major hurricane ensembles. I just don't think it's going to happen. Even the GFS that everyone thinks is crazy, um, is bluffing here. But we're going to have to see how the trends continue and to see how this storm develops. Bay Capiche storm, some ensembles showing some gradual development. We're going to have to see. All right. It's about a wait and see. The GEFS here, no major hurricane ensemble showing. The one out in the Bay Capiche doesn't really even develop. So that's why I'm not really paying attention to it until I see actual proof that it's actually trying to develop. It has a much higher chance to develop if it does. But look here, I mean, the ensemble's all in good agreement that the Western Antilles are going to be impacted with some type of wave. We just don't know where yet. So before I go, we're going to take a look at the satellite imagery here of Invest 94L and the one out in the Atlantic. And we're going to be wrapping it up as we talk about the satellite imagery. So anything interesting here is no. Clearly, there is sheer getting thrown at this. Looks very disorganized, just an open wave as we speak. Has gained latitude, so we're gonna have to see how that continues. But Invest 94L, not really looking at all anything interesting to my eye. The Eastern Atlantic, where this wave is at, yes, there is Saharan dust. Yes, there is dry air. But there is that pocket of some development. I mean, if we actually take a closer look here. Wait, I know I'm very far in here. But what I just noticed actually as we continue this, I'm not trying to worry you guys. There is dry air in this, but there is a low level center developing. And they actually might make this an invest. In some of this deep thunderstorm, there is now some indications of rotation. But either way, there is some major dry air getting into this. But there is now some indications that a low pressure is now beginning to develop. I'm not trying to concern you guys, but I'm gonna keep this on the watch here. I mean, we take a look at the heat wave imagery here. I like to call it. Do we see anything significant? We do see dry air, but we do see some convection near that maybe low level center that's trying to develop. But we're gonna have to keep on the watch of it. But this is gonna wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Questions, comments, concerns. Um, Let me know in the comments. All right. Subscribe, like, and see you guys later tonight or tomorrow. Have a good night.